Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Spouse Link live stream. Okay, so let me introduce today's show. Generations of military spouses have lived their own stories, and yet few of us get a chance to share them and our experiences of navigating the life that comes with active duty service. Amy Uptgraft, founder of Veteran Spouse Project, has created a space for military spouses to tell their story in their own words using video production and writing and expressive arts workshops. As a military spouse, sharing your story can give happiness and hope to transitioning and retiring military spouses and future generations of military spouses, especially as they navigate the complex path into civilian life. And it supports other spouses, shows understanding, creates camaraderie and friendship, lifts up voices of generations of men and women that have loved service members. It can also be the key to celebrating your life as a military spouse or healing from any disappointments or heartaches that we know that we experience. No matter what your story is, it is worth hearing. And so today's Spouse Link live stream is all about giving it a voice. We really look forward to having you join us today and telling us more about your own story, hopefully through the Veteran Spouse Project, which I'm super excited to introduce to you today. Thank you for joining me in today's Spouse Link live stream. I'm Anna Larson, Spouse Link Ambassador. I'm also a copywriter and digital marketer by trade, a homeschool mom, retired military spouse as of about 18 months now. These live streams are for military spouses that are looking for connection and support as they near or cross over into transition or retirement timeframe from the active duty military world. Spouse Link was created in 2012 by AFMA, the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association, to support, inform, and inspire military spouses around the world. As we dive into today's topic, please leave comments, share experiences, and let us know where you're joining from. Not only do I value what my listening guests have to say about these topics, but we also encourage you to interact within our community. So please feel free to drop comments. If you have questions, feel free to drop questions, and we look forward to hearing from you. So before anything further, I do want to pull up the bio of my guest and let you know who we're going to be hearing from today. Amy Upgraft. Amy is the founder and artistic director of the Veteran Spouse Project. Amy grew up in Woodburn, Indiana, received her BA in theater performance from Purdue University. She spent several years as a working actor in New York City and has performed in numerous productions around the country and teaching hundreds of students and directing shows from Alaska to Georgia. Amy is also a playwright, having written the nationally produced show I Will Wait. She is currently creating a new theatrical piece through VSP's Heart to Script writing series with a generous grant from the National Endowment for the Arts, which I can't wait to share with you today. Amy was a proud military spouse. I think she probably still is. Amy is a proud military spouse for 21 years before her husband retired from the Army. Amy, Jamie, and their 4 children now live in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where she continues to write, act, and direct. So without further ado, I'm going to remove that and bring Amy up onto the screen. Hi.
Hi, friend.
How are you today?
I'm so good. How are you?
I am good. I'm so excited to have you join us today. It is going, I love your organization. I love supporting it and know about it.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, you cut out right there, so I missed that part. Can you repeat?
Oh, we've got internet things going on, don't we? Yeah, I just said I love your organization and I'm really excited to share it. I think every military spouse needs to hear about it.
Thank you. Obviously, I also love our organization. And I'm just so honored and proud to be a part of it and to be a part of military and veteran spouses just sharing their lives and sharing their stories. I love every bit of the work we do at VSP.
Oh, I do too. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about what you have coming up today. Because I feel like your Heart to Script workshops and the kind of the direction that VSP is going to be very beneficial for upcoming groups of military spouses that are retiring, transitioning out of active duty service. So yeah, I know. I don't want to get ahead of myself really quick. So let me just ask you the first question, just so everybody else knows what we're talking about. So, Amy, can you tell us, like, what is Veteran Spouse Project? Tell us what it is, where it came from.
Sure. So the Veteran Spouse Project came out of a play. So I wrote a play back in 2015. I was going through a hard time with my husband's, I think it was his fourth deployment. And so with my theater background, I interviewed spouses across generations and I wrote this play. Not necessarily even expecting it to be produced. I just really needed to get all of these feelings I was having out of my body and like into the world. So I wrote this play and then we ended up producing it. And then audiences really ended up loving it and it resonated and really seemed to hit with the people that were in the cast and the people that were in the audience. And it really kind of became this beautiful moment of sharing. And so from there, we PCS to Alaska and I met my business partner, Leah, and we started the Veteran Spouse Project. And really what it's there for is just to create safe space for military and veteran spouses to be able to share their own stories. We do that a couple different ways. We do it through online, expressive arts and writing classes. I teach one in particular called Heart to Script, which is a monologue writing class. We also do readings of the play, and we also do documentary style interviews with veteran and military spouses. Just again, different types of storytelling.
Yes. So when I originally met you, I think it was because of a Heart to Script workshop.
I think
that was our first introduction, and I have been fascinated and a little obsessed with your organization ever since, because I just loved the different opportunity it provides. You don't find this very often. It's not something that's really readily available. I think you might literally be one of the only organizations that offers something along these lines. Hi, Moni. Anyway, so let's talk about how what you do is going to be benefiting like a transitioning or retiring spouse. So how does a transitioning retiring spouse benefit from VSP's offerings?
Well, I mean, I can speak from my own experience. So my husband has now been retired 3 years. And I think, when you're in the middle of military spouse life, you're, for lack of a better, like you are in the hamster wheel. You are on the treadmill. I mean, you are going and things are stressful and things are happening, but it's what makes military spouses amazing. You're reacting, you're putting out fires, you're juggling a million balls. You're doing all the things. And I think as you step off that treadmill, as your spouse potentially retires, and all of a sudden there's this shifting that happens, at least for me, I had a lot of feelings that I had compartmentalized because I had to in order to be able to do the next thing and move on to the next. That all of a sudden, when I stepped off the treadmill, I was like, oh, I have some feelings I need to process. Okay. And so VSP is there for that. It's there to kind of especially help transitioning and recently retired military spouses kind of say, who am I? What do I even like? Who do I want to be? Help you resolve some of those feelings from the years past that maybe you didn't have the time to process, help you focus on what's ahead and who you want to be. I kind of, view it as it's your second act. This military spouse life was your first act. And now it's your second act. And so we just provide a space for you to explore what you want your second act to be. And I found it, although emotional and overwhelming at times, also incredibly exciting that for the first time in my married life, I was getting to determine what I wanted without having to think about what's the Army going to say, or for how long, or are we going to have to move, or how this is going to, right, the deployments or whatever. And I found it, once I worked through those initial feelings of kind of feeling unmoored, I found it to be just a really kind of liberating time in my life. And so VSP is here for that. It's just a safe space. Come and be a part of our programs. And, help you determine what your second act is going to look like.
I love that description so much. Okay, I want to really quick pull up your website here because just to kind of go over some of the things that Amy was talking about. Stories We Tell is their documentary style storytelling. And I just have to tell you, as we scroll down, this is all on YouTube, so you can get a little taste of it on their website. But then you can also go to their playlist on YouTube and kind of see what they do. So one of the things I remember when I've watched every single one of these, probably a couple of times, right? And one of my favorites was a woman who was talking about living in Germany in I believe it was the early 80s. So this is Iron Curtain time frame. This is, like East and West Germany, and like what a unique experience that must have been. But she was talking about the security measures of getting on post, and the security measures of looking for bombs under her car, and just those kinds of things. And it just blew me away, just in terms of like thinking about what this military spouse's experience was as compared to when I had lived in Germany, which was a totally different type of experience. So that's the first thing. I just wanted to show people kind of what that is. And then I want to go over to your events tab, which, well, actually, I'm going to pull that in because we're going to go there. We're going to go there again soon. But
Okay.
your, when you talk about your Heart to Script workshop, it's a monologue series. Tell me a little bit about the process. Like, what would a spouse go through if they joined that event?
Sure. So the play I Will Wait that we produce readings of and have produced several times across the country is kind of anchored by these 5 monologues. These 5 different spouses speak in these monologues. And so we just kind of decided that it made sense to kind of help spouses maybe share their stories in monologue. And monologue is just one actor on stage sharing a moment in time. And so if you are going to sign up for our Heart to Script class, we are going to work over the 3 weeks that the class runs at kind of taking this big picture military spouse story, right? Like I can't even imagine boiling my military spouse story down to one moment, but we are. And we take it, and just through time and writing prompts, we kind of try to boil it down to those definitive places or moments or experiences that really kind of keep circling to the surface for you. And those are the ones that then I will also walk you through. Okay, so in those moments, how did you feel? Put yourself back in that moment. What would you tell yourself in that moment? And then we write.
Yeah.
And essentially you boil it down to a 2 or 3 minute monologue, which again, I know feels like, whoa. But they really, monologues are meant to be very impactful, very direct, very in the moment, and incredibly dynamic and emotional. And so they actually are a brilliant pairing with military spouse stories because we have so many experiences like that if we allow ourselves time and space to really think about it.
Yes. So I did take this, and you did create a monologue out of my story. And when I say you created it, I really literally mean you created it. Monologue writing was not my strength. But Amy is an amazing editor, just as an FYI for anyone that needs some support. Yes, Moni, the monologue, it was such a powerful experience. And my experience, what I wrote about wasn't even really like a momentous occasion. It was that initial PCS, my first OCONUS move out of the country. I had an infant. I had a young stepdaughter that was coming to live with us. I had no friends. I was new to military life. I mean, prior to this, it had been 9 months at Fort Huachuca, and I was pregnant the whole time. So I didn't meet anybody. I had no clue what I was getting into. And it was just that process of like trying to find a friend and connecting with the German librarians of all people. They became my family. Yeah, right.
Love that part.
They became my family, and just like finding my space in that world. Like even thinking about it now makes me almost want to tear up a little bit, because even though it wasn't like this huge, impactful, like da-da moment of my life, it was significant. in my identity as a military spouse. And I really feel like that's what you do, is you help people narrow down that identity that they hold as a military spouse and share that feeling, like the pride, the sorrow, the happiness, the joy, the frustration, like all of those feelings that come with active duty and then retirement, right?
Right. And I think, that's something military spouses, we've all heard it, right? Suck it up, buttercup, or you knew what you were getting into, or, pick one. And so I think it's really easy for us to just kind of be like, okay, well, we're just going to keep living, keep moving, not complain, do what we have to do, put our heads down and get the things done. And we do that. We do that brilliantly, and we do that well. But in the meantime, there's a whole lot of other things that we also need to deal with, if we're honest with ourselves. And so I think what I love most about our work at VSP is we pride ourselves on being authentic. Yeah. There is not a single thing you can come to one of our classes and say that is going to ever meet any type of judgment, pushback. It is a space for you to say all the things that have been in your heart for however long. And we will happily walk you through whatever that brings up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like what Selena just said in her comment, this class needs to be across every military installation around the world, because it really is like it's something that's specifically for the spouse. And it's something that's specifically to help the spouse just find that, maybe the word is pride. I mean, I don't even really know what it is, but that pride in being who we are and what we contribute to the process of military life, right? And when you're going through that transition to retirement, you can lose that. I know it's been 3 years for you and a year and a half for me. And there is just those moments of loss of identity where it's so difficult to know, like, where do I fit in, right? It's the where do I fit in? And just that reminder of, hey, these 20 years that you spent, or 21 or 22, or however many years, 30 for some military spouses, right? But these years that you've spent are a huge part of who you are, and they're significant, and they're worth remaining part of your life and part of your story. But I love your act two, like, now it's time to figure out who the next, what this next journey is going to be for you. So I loved that. I loved that so much.
Well, and I think, I think a lot about where my life could have been. I think we all do that, right? If I had not married Jamie, I was living in New York City at the time, and I had all of these ideas about where my life was heading. And then and so I think it brings me a lot of joy to be able to walk beside spouses who are entering this act two and be like, hey, these 20 years where you maybe, or however many years, like you said, where you maybe felt like you were just supporting and helping and moving and, running kids and supporting units and working where you could, it informed everything about who you are. And now you get a chance to take those 20 years of incredible experiences, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, and launch yourself into what comes next. And I just love the idea of that.
Oh, I do too. And I love how you put it. Okay, so I have to ask, I know that there's been hundreds, but what's your favorite story so far?
Well, I don't have a favorite. It's like when my kids always ask me who my favorite kid is. I can't answer that. But I know. One that I think really surprised me, and it really resonated with me in a way I was not expecting, is we had a class maybe last spring that a spouse joined, and she was stationed in Jamaica. And she was one of like 3 Army spouses on the whole island. She's in Jamaica. And she just shared and talked about how incredibly lonely and depressed and overwhelmed she felt. And she said, nobody understands it, because when you tell people, oh, we're moving to Jamaica, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky. This is so great. That's everybody's dream. And she's like, but I thought we were going to retire where we were, the Army said no, and we moved, and I left this community and home I loved to move to this place where I'm by myself. There's no support here. There's, even doctor's appointments are hard. Like everything is hard. And I feel overwhelmingly guilty that I'm complaining about living in Jamaica, right? Where people go to spend, weeks of luxury. So she was like, and the things that came out of her, I mean, she was so heartbroken. And it's this idea of seeing this woman who was really struggling with trying to find a way to fit where she was with this backdrop of paradise. And I, that's something that just military spouse and every single person in the group was like, oh yes, we see, right? Like we understand that what from the outside optics looks like a beautiful place to be in reality is hard.
Yeah.
And I find like that's what the monologue series and what the classes do. It allows you to just come into a space where you don't have to justify the fact that you live in Jamaica and it's paradise and you should be so grateful and thankful. You can just step in and be like, guys, I live in Jamaica and I left somewhere I really loved and I'm sad. And we were like, we get it. We get it, right?
Yes. That's so, and it's what you were saying, right? It's the safe space where there is no judgment. And oh, look, Selena was in that class. Her story stirred so many emotions
in that class. I know. She just it really like hit me in the feels. Because I feel like it's just one little piece, right? And that it's a piece that if you're not in the military community, you're not gonna understand. But if you are, you're gonna understand it immediately and be able to connect with her immediately. And that allows her the ability to kind of jump right in and get to work because you don't have to justify it to any of us. You don't have to explain it. We all understand it. So let's unpack it.
And I feel like that's like kind of what the whole point is, right? Like it's you being able to tell your story without that judgment, without having to say, okay, listen, I know I was living in Germany and being in Europe is amazing, but right? There's always that but.
I had a baby and I was lonely and there was a language barrier and it was hard, right? Like, and I think, that's not to say that you don't come through that understanding that there's incredible experiences and joy and community that comes out of it. But we can live in both places.
Yes.
We can have the bitter and the sweet. We can do that.
Yes. And acknowledging that is so important. And I think that military spouses struggle with that acknowledgement. They struggle with being able to say that because they feel like there will be judgment of some kind coming at them. Like, I can't believe you're complaining about this. Exactly. Or you live overseas, you get extra money every month through COLA. Like, what is the big deal, right? Like, it's hard to explain. Yeah. But again, it's all of those buts, right? Like, but.
Right.
Yes. So I want to throw this out there. Military spouses have an opportunity through your program to share their stories and as a result feel like they matter. That's exactly, that sums it up so well, Amy.
Yeah.
Right? It just really does.
Love it.
Right? It does. It helps them feel like they matter. So, okay, let's go into really quick. I'm going to pull in what are the upcoming events. Let me pull up your website just so you can kind of share a little bit with what's coming up for VSP.
So we just finished a book series. We run a book club, and not your typical like Target bestseller book clubs. We typically, we did one this summer called Seeking Wisdom with Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way. And this one is about why we dream and how our dreams can help us connect to our more creative mind. It was super interesting. I think this winter we're looking to do Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic. So we're offering book clubs that kind of dig into a little bit of how to tap into your creativity and kind of expand your thought and mind. But then we're about to start a Heart to Script class. And that is a class I teach. We just received a really generous grant from the National Endowment for the Arts that we will spend the next year offering Heart to Script classes. And then from those classes, we will create a writing group that will military spouse writing group that will partner with actors and workshop a new theatrical production that we will have a reading of next November.
I love that so much. Okay, this is a big deal. This National Endowment of the Arts grant is not like just, I mean, that is a major win for your organization.
I know. I have to be honest. We applied, and you rarely get it the first time. And we applied, and didn't expect to. I mean, we were like, why not? Let's apply. And then they kind of loved it. And in particular, because there aren't many opportunities for the military and theater in specific and in general, and then more specifically, military spouse and theater, we're pretty much it. So, so they were so supportive of funding the project. And so it's a matching grant. So we are looking to match the funding for it, but we're really excited about, I can already tell you the stuff that's going to come out of it is going to just, it's going to be so good, so impactful, and just really help, a secondary part of what we try to do at VSP is help civilian audiences and our communities kind of understand what military families walk through. I often think we as military spouses and families don't do a great job of communicating our own struggles and needs because we're, again, told to we're going to handle it. We're going to handle it. So, being able to expose them to this finished reading just helps open up those doors and give a peek behind the curtain of kind of what military families walk through.
Yeah. I'm going to drop right now the monologue playlist on YouTube into the comments so that people that are interested in going to see that playlist can kind of see what it is that the final product looks like. These are like short, what are they, like 2 minute, 3 minutes?
They're around 3 minutes. These are monologues we produced for a fundraiser we had last year. So the final piece, and Leah, my business partner, gets so frustrated when I say this. I'm like, well, I don't exactly know what it's going to look like because we have to let it come. We have to let it bloom. Like, I don't know. We have to just see what bubbles up. She's like, oh my gosh. The finished piece that we'll have a reading of next November will be, these types of monologues. We'll have a through line. We'll string them all together. It will be one cohesive piece, but it will be these types of monologues that military spouses have written themselves. That will be what we share with audiences. And I think it's just gonna just be great. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So for anyone that's listening that's ready to jump on this now, is your class still open for registration?
So it is. I actually just looked. There's 2 spots left. Okay. And so I don't allow them to get so super big because it is important for me to have people have time to share and really feel like they're being heard. And that's all kind of part of the collaborative process. So we have 2 more spots in this fall, and then we'll offer it again in January and February, and then we'll offer it again in April.
Perfect. Okay, so that's the upcoming for anyone that's listening that wants to jump on one of these Heart to Script workshops. I am going to tell you right now, 1000% worth it. I would love to do it again. Like that narrowing down of the moment and choosing that one specific time in your military spouse life. Like now that I'm a retired spouse, because when I took it before, I was not a retired spouse. Now that I'm a retired spouse, I would love to take your workshop again because I feel like what would come out of it would be different than what was there. Right?
And that's, I think, the beauty of it. Like, it's one of those things where again, think about what you experience in the span of being connected to the military. I mean, you could write 60 monologues based on your, experiences on any time. You could do, month by month, year by year. I mean, yeah, it's amazing to think about. So it is one of those things that you can repeat. Something new is going to bubble up that and it always blows my mind how in every single class, a spouse will share and then they'll sit back and go, I didn't know I was wrestling with that, or I didn't know that was in there, or I didn't know. And I'm like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm rehashing this class I took, but I just remember you took us through this journey of like, all right, kind of document your military time, and then you had us just use colored like crayons, markers to kind of shade the colors, and then asked us like, why did you choose that color for that? And it was just that simple process of even putting a color to an event that made me
Mhm.
think, well, it's red because I was angry during that time.
Right.
And now that I sit and think about it, like, as a spouse, as an active duty spouse, you're just plowing through the events as much as you can in the best way you can, you know? And
Yeah.
so when you start to go through retirement and transition, it's almost like you still can't process those moments. You still can't like spend the time that's needed to say, I was so mad that point, or my service member totally hung me out to dry, right? And we've never like talked about this, right? And then like just moving through that process, and now I'm on that other side where I'm like, would I write about the fact that my spouse is at home all the time now? Like,
Maybe, right? Or I even found that like, like raising kids. It's like when you're in the thick of raising tiny kids and you're just exhausted and you're like, it's so overwhelming. And now that my kids are starting to grow and leave the house, all of a sudden I look back at that time and I don't feel all of that like hard anxiety anymore. It's like, oh, remember when they crawled on my lap and we watched Elmo, or remember. And I'm
yes.
finding like even with my own military spouse story, as more time passes, I look back and I'm like, oh, you know what I loved at Fort Bragg, even though I hated what I thought was every minute at that place. I really loved, right, this playground I took the twins to, where I always met Shelly, my neighbor, and it was our respite in the middle of a hard time. And I find those, start to bubble up for me as more time passes, which I find so beautiful.
It
Uh,
really is. It's just this dichotomy of like this multitude of feelings that are all centered around experiences. Like, I mean, I cried and sobbed when I found out I was moving to Fort Hood. It was on my top 3 places I never want to go with the military.
Right.
And I retired here.
I know, and you're still there.
Like,
I know.
let me tell you about a little twist in the experience, right? Like I thought it would be horrible and horrific and awful. And ultimately, I chose to stay here. And it was because of the people and the experiences that I've had here,
Right.
you know? Oh, so beautiful. Okay,
Yeah.
Amy,
Yeah.
can you give us one piece of advice for military spouses going through this transition process? What would you tell them since you are on the other side?
Well, and I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but I do think it's a chance for you to find safe space to deal with some of those lingering feelings that were part of your active duty military spouse story. And those are going to continue to bubble up for you. And you're going to have to continue to do that work, right? To unpack and work through. But I think it's also, for me, I felt like it was a shedding of my skin almost. When we moved to this house, I refused to let Jamie call it our forever house. I was like, the minute you say it, my heart starts to beat and I have so much anxiety. Like, please don't ever call it our forever house. Even though it could very well be, don't refer to it as that. And I actually repainted the whole house myself. And I did it thinking, and as I did it, I felt like I was painting, like my sadness and my loss of community. And, I painted away a lot of these feelings that I was shedding, like, you're never going to leave again. I love the thought of that. The thought of that terrifies me, right? Like it was all those things. And now I'm at a point where I truly am stepping into my second act, and it feels so great. It feels like I've put on just this new coat where I can decide, what I want to be committed to and what projects I want to be a part of, and I'm the master of my own time. And I think, I would encourage you to do the work to process those things that were hard from the past. But man, step into the unknown. And for the first time in probably your entire military spouse career, it's yours to determine what you want it to look like. And so it took me a long time to be like, what do I like? What do I want to do? there's a free Friday night. What do I like to do on Friday nights? I don't know. We never have them free. We're always going to some event or some function. Like, I know that seems silly, but that's how it felt. It was like, I don't like to do. Well, I'll just give you this quick example. We hosted coffees a lot in the Army. You'd host unit coffees, and I loved the people in my units, but I didn't love hosting. I'm just not like necessarily that, clean the house, put on the stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't love hosting. And it was like, if you had asked me when we were active duty, if I liked it, I would have been like 100%. I love a party. I love it. I love hosting. And then after we stopped, I was like, so I don't love that. I love having people just come into my house and I'll give you coffee in whatever cup I got. And I love connection and community, but I don't love the like fancy platters and the formally stuff. Like, I don't love it.
Almost like there was an expectation
right.
in this setting, and now that expectations, you've been released from it, and you get to do it your own way.
Yeah, I don't have to do those anymore if I don't want to. And I know that seems silly, but now I'll have you over, but house might not be as picked up, and everything might not match. We'll have a great time, but that's a kind of a silly example, but it was like, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks when I was like, oh, I think I thought I liked these. Yeah. I like posting these all the time, but I actually don't.
Yeah. I don't think it's a silly example at all. I think it's exactly the kind of example that will resonate with military spouses going through this process. Mm-hmm. I mean, I share this all the time on these live streams, right? But my breakdown moment was, can I still use the on-post library? That was my breakdown moment on retirement. On DD 214, he's coming home with his retirement papers. Like, how
are like
yes.
How's the library?
Yes. Can I still? It doesn't matter that there's 4 community libraries within 10 minutes of my house. It didn't matter, right? It was just that one thing that was like that one thing. And for you, it was, I don't like hosting formal coffees. I just want to come hang out. Let me pour you in a cracked cup if it's a cracked cup, and have a cup of coffee with me.
I'll sniff the milk to see if it still smells good, and we'll have a great chat. Like,
I love it. I can't wait to have coffee with you.
I know, me either.
Okay, Amy, tell everyone, let me add this up here. Tell everyone how they can find you and the Veteran Spouse Project.
Well, you can find us at all those places that Anna just put up there, because I'm not great at remembering them or reciting them. But yes, we are very active on Facebook. Our website is newly updated and beautiful. I love it very much. And we try to be active on all those platforms right there. So you can always find what we have going on. The website is up to date. We're about to put together our winter and spring offerings. So those will be posted to give everybody a little bit of time to get ready for that. And I'm very excited. We just came back from Columbus, Georgia, where we interviewed a Korean and Vietnam era spouse, Jeannie Puckett. His husband, Ralph Puckett, was just awarded the Medal of Honor. And we're about to roll out a 12 installment social media series on her that is going to just, y'all, it is good.
I cannot wait to see what you produce from that. I mean, I only know her because of you, right? Like, because of what the work you guys have done with her, and because I follow you. But she's a fascinating human being.
And the things she shared with us, just to kind of tie it all back together, are so relevant to what current day military spouses are walking through. She kept saying, like, well, is anyone even going to care about this? And I'm like, yes, Jeannie, we all care, because this is our lives too. Like, we're living this same thing. Yes. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see these stories come full circle. It's beautiful to see, here's a woman who's 90 years old. Colonel Puckett is 96. And, she still is so smart and has so much wisdom and insight to share. And that's what we want to do at VSP. We just want to make connections and share stories and drink coffee out of our chipped coffee cups with a little bit of spoiled milk, and just be authentic together. That's what we
love it. I love it. So I did just drop the VSP website down in the comments for anyone that's watching right now. Go sign up for their monthly newsletter. It is a fantastic way to keep kind of up to date on what's happening. And the person who writes it is an amazing writer. It's not me. Just let's drop that now.
We found her from Heart to Script. We found and she's
fantastic. Yeah, she's fantastic, and she writes an amazing newsletter, and it's just that moment in my month where I get the newsletter and I spend like 5 minutes and I just feel bucket filled, and I look at upcoming classes and then cry a little because my schedule doesn't allow me to.
I know.
But the book club, I'm waiting. I'm going to read the book from this last time because it looks so fascinating.
The book club is the book club. I mean, when Barb, who facilitated it, introduced it, I was like, wait. If we tap into our dreams, we can be more creative. She was like, yeah, that's the whole book about it. I'm like, I've been wasting so much time. Let's dig in.
And everyone in Amy's space is like, we don't need more creativity. We don't need more creativity. Amy, keep it down.
You're right. Finished project. Finished project.
Right. Okay, Amy, what a wonderful chat this has been with you. Thank you so much for sharing about the Heart to Script workshop, your I Will Wait theatrical production, the different expressive arts workshop or programs that you have coming up, book club. There was a journaling one in November.
Yeah, there's a one day on a Saturday morning. Barb and Leah are going to facilitate beautiful. You create your own art journal that you can write and draw and just kind of have that be your little book to pop in your purse and carry around with you. Pull out.
Yeah. So go sign up for those events. Use that link just down to just register right off their website. Amy, thank you again so much. You are a beautiful soul, and I love spending minutes with you.
I love spending time with you too, in person. You're the best. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and for everyone else that's watching, thank you so much for joining us on this Spouse Link live stream. We started this series again to support military spouses either nearing, going through the process, or who are on the other side of retirement and transition from active duty life. It can be a very lonely time. So just know that I'm out there. I'm here to support you. Feel free to drop me a line on LinkedIn. Reach out to any of the many guests that we've had on, but today especially, go find her.
Come find me, people. Come find me.
Go find her and take one of those Heart to Script workshops, because I would love to hear your story within the next year through this. I mean, I cannot wait to see.
And we're looking at possibly, as many as 30 monologues. Depending on how they all shape out, to put together a full production, it'll be a lot. So get in there.
Yeah, you could be famous, people. This is a professional actor reading your words. This is amazing.
So
yeah. All right. Well, we're going to say goodbye. Amy, thank you again. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. And we will see you next time on the next Spouse Link live stream.